Welcome back. My name is Jim Shephard. I am the author of P.E.Eyes, Ben and Vern Detective Novel Series, and this is P.E.Eyes Uncovered. Today I want to talk a little bit about character development. Character development, in my mind, is the most entertaining aspect of being a writer. Developing a character gives you a certain sense of omniscience. And you can only get that from creating something that never was there. So how do you do this? How do you choose who is going to be in your book? One of the things I like to do is choose somebody that I know or have met and examine their characteristics. And can I give this characteristic to a character in my book? More times than not, yes, that's the case, and I do that. I do that quite often. Now, picking a protagonist, which is the utmost of importance when you're creating a novel. I picked Ben and Vern to be my protagonists. Why two? Why two? I mean, a lot of people only pick one. Well, I picked two because I modeled Ben and Vern after myself. People have said to me, Jim, you're a funny guy. Other people have said to me, Jim, you're too serious. How can you be funny and serious in the same body? Well, that's me. That's who I am. How can I put that in a character in my book? I tried doing that, and I found I was getting a little confused all the time, and it wasn't so easy. So what I did is I split it right down the middle. Okay, I've got Ben Broder, the devil-may-care flying fool, and I've got Vern Peters, the more analytical and serious person. Okay, there's me, there's me. Put them together, and it works perfectly because they feed off each other, they support each other, and they get a lot of laughs by doing the same thing. Ben and Vern have no respect for authority, and yet they still get the job done. Now, as a private investigator, I had to work with police departments. I had to work with a lot of people in authority, and sometimes it worked. Oftentimes, I didn't care what they said, and really, I didn't have a lot of respect for people who thought they do better than what I did. Maybe they did, maybe they didn't, but the respect was lost, and that shows in my characters, Ben and Vern, but they do it in a much more humorous way. My supporting characters, being Wilma and Cassie, were a couple of young ladies that started off right in the beginning with relatively minor roles, but I found that they developed their friendship together along with the boys, and subsequently, each novel, their roles increased to the point now where they are an integral part of breakwater investigations. And then there's Edna. Edna, whom I modeled after my own mother. At just over 5 feet, she was a fireplug, and Edna is a fireplug. Not afraid of anybody, not afraid of 6'8" Merle, not afraid of bad guy. In fact, she stands up to Merle. She stands up to the boys. If it wasn't for Edna, there would be no breakwater investigations because she keeps that office running smoothly. She takes no guff from anybody, and it works. It works. And then rounding out my cast is Merle Watkins, a retired MI5 agent. Merle is, for lack of a better phrase, the backbone of the stories. Okay, when the boys get into trouble, it's Merle that comes on. Merle actually got them into the business. He more or less trained them. He provides them with technique. He provides them with um, armaments when they need it. He's the muscle of the group. And when things go south, which they often do, it's always Merle to the rescue. Okay, so that's my protagonists in the book. Now, what do you do for crime? You've got a very efficient investigation team in Misty Harbor, but there's no crime. So why bother even having it? If you walk down the street and cross in the wrong before you get to the intersection, that's jaywalking. Everybody knows that. Well, that's a big deal in Misty Harbor. So, I mean, really, how many stories could I write about jaywalkers? So what do I do for the crime? I import the crime. This is where my history as a private investigator comes into play because I pull from my files and I develop what I pull from my files into stories that are humorous, exciting, thrilling, you name it. Because as a writer, I can do that. I can change the stories. I can change the people that I put in there. I mean, basically, they derive from my files, but they go off on different tangents, and I got to curtail it many times. I got to put the reins in because off it goes, and I got to pull it back. And oftentimes, I've got two or three different stories going in the same novel because there's just too much going on in my head to concentrate on one thing. But it all comes out together in the end. And that's the exciting part about developing characters, especially when you do a lot of dialogue, which is my books are 80% dialogue, I would say. You got to remember that when one character is talking, you got to be in that character's head. You got to say the things that that character would say that are in line with his person or her personality. You can't you can't have, for example, Ben speaking in Wilma's voice. It doesn't work, and it's very obvious to the reader that it doesn't work. You can't have Cassie speaking in Merle's voice. It doesn't work. So you have to remember who's doing the talking, who's doing the listening, and what would this person say? Would this person say something that's completely out of character? I mean, readers pick up on that sort of thing. I don't want my readers to be questioning me saying, I don't think Merle would say something like that. Well, I'm sorry, you're not going to have that problem when you're reading my books because I get into the heads of my characters. And sometimes I have trouble getting out of those heads, but I get into those heads and I speak the voice that they want. Now, if you've ever followed my Ben and Vern blog, you'd hear from these characters specifically and you'd understand what they're saying, and just go and look at it if you ever get the opportunity. So that's what I want to say about character development. It's a lot of fun if you do it properly, and it really makes the book exciting. You see, you can have an awful lot of fun with your characters if you just let them be themselves and don't try to imagine them as somebody that they're not. So think about that. And if you'd like what you've seen today, give us a big thumbs up, hit like, hit subscribe, especially, and hit share.